Our divided culture seems to be fueled by divisive media. How are we supposed to navigate that? It's easy to point out bias on the other side. It's a little harder to point it out on our own. And sometimes we can even feel addicted to the news, even when it makes us feel bad about ourselves and about others. What's going on? This is just a portion of a really interesting conversation we had at the Good Complex podcast with media insider Hillary Kennedy.
I think we all know that media is incredibly polarizing right now, which is not a great thing. I think that most people generally have a negative view of media. Anytime someone asks me
Mhm.
what I do for a living and I tell them,
Yeah.
I would say 8 out of 10 times someone will tell me, "Ugh, I hate the news. I never watch the news. I make a point to never turn it on
Yeah.
anymore," because it ruins your day a lot of time.
Mhm.
If you let it, it can really ruin your day. I I think that there have been countless studies in the past 5 years how the suicide rate, opioid use, all of those things, depression, anxiety, those have gone way up, and I think a lot of that is due to what we see and hear in the media, and we can't really escape it. The average person
Mhm.
cannot escape it. From the moment you wake up in the morning, even if you're checking your Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever, even if you're not seeking out news or what's going on in the world, it will find you, whether you want to look at it or not. And so I think that people generally have a pretty negative view of the media and don't trust it the way that they used to either.
Yeah.
And that's hard. It's a hard position to be in when you work for the media and you hear people say how horrible it is all the time.
Right.
Um, and I think people just have this generalization that it's doing a lot of damage and it's all bad, but not true. We'll get to that later, though.
Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna take it positive, but part of it is media is business, right? And whether it's social media or media, whatever kind of media, news media, it's all we want viewers, we want subscribers, we want, and just like the Facebook whistleblower, that just testified, before Congress and brought all that out, that what we all suspected, right, is that, hey, fear and anxiety and anger and polarization and extremism, all those things get people to watch. They get people to look at the posts or whatever and stay on there and see more advertising, generate more money. Um, so in a as media really is a business driven by a business model, and I'm not anti-business, um, but do you see that changing, or do you feel that, I don't know if you work for a unique organization, but do you feel that pressure underneath, or are you sort of above that, or
What I find most fascinating about what you said is I'm always surprised by how many people don't realize that media or news media in particular is a business. There are so many people that just think of the news as the news. They don't think of the news as being an organization that's there to make money. And people don't realize facts tell, stories sell. So
Hmm.
if we gave you just the facts all the time, would you necessarily tune in? Some people would, of course, but those stories are really what sell it. And a lot of people don't realize that they are being sold to in one way or another. Most networks do have some sort of bias or some sort of leaning or some sort
Hmm.
of sponsors that they need to please or keep
Right,
happy.
right.
Um, I think keeping that in mind is really important because, again, people get up in arms about things, but if it is a business, just like anything
Hmm.
else, you can kind of change the framework when you watch the news and pick and choose what you want to believe, and also just be aware that we're being sold to everywhere you turn.
Yeah.
Every business is trying to sell you something, and they do need your eyeballs and they do need your dollars. So keeping that in mind, I think, is really helpful. Um, I've been fortunate that most of the places I've worked, I've kind of been shielded from most of that, but it has been interesting how many different instances I've been in where they would conveniently leave some facts out of a story to
Mm.
shape a narrative. And until I worked in news media, I truly, honestly did not know that happened. I
Yeah.
just thought the story that's being presented is the full story.
Yeah.
And until you work in it, you realize a lot of times they do leave out key facts and key details to shape it a certain way to make those sponsors happy
Hmm.
or to get more eyeballs or to make something more um, interesting or shocking so that people will tune in. And the human brain is really geared towards those shocking or sad or scary or negative stories, because we're wired to detect danger.
Hmm.
We're wired to detect situations that we need to maybe problem solve or figure out, and so they're attractive to us. So even if it makes us feel badly inside to read some
Yeah.
of those stories, we keep coming back to them because we're kind of wired to detect those sorts of things. And so they know that, and they
Yeah.
keep putting those out there, those the clickbait headlines
Yeah.
out
Just
there.
reading all these, studies lately, brain studies and brain chemistry studies and brain scans of how media and social media does elicit that fight or flight response, and all the hormones start going, and uh, or even the dopamine rush of some interesting story or crazy thing or whatever, and how people have to actually have withdrawals when they get off of media, the same way as if they're drinking, or trying to get off of alcohol or drugs or
Definitely.
something like that, which is crazy to think about.
Okay, that was just part of a really fascinating conversation. If you would like to catch the whole thing, follow the link. Also, be sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel for more great content around mental health and cultural topics and really important issues.